Welcome back, or welcome to So Crafty Nana. My name is Teresa, and today we are going to be working on the cover for my pink Christmas journal. This is part 2 of my pink Christmas journal series. In part 1, we did sort of an overview, printables, things like that, and we made these beautiful circles backed with a glitter cardstock. So these will be pockets, tucks, journaling cards, tags, whatever we make them into as we move forward with this project. I wanted to also show you after the video, I had mentioned keeping all of your little scraps. So I did add some cute little sparkly bits to some of the circles that I did not back. So those are, that's just something that you can do with your scraps. I used my little mini punches that I had from Stampin' Up, but you can use dies, punches, you can just cut little shapes out freehand, whatever, to add a little bit of sparkle. You could even do dots and just add like little sparkle dots to some of them. So really easy to just zhuzh up some plain circles that will go in again as journaling cards, tucks, or what have you. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this away, and then we're going to talk about the cover. Okay, so in the last video, I did share with you briefly that I was going to use this pink fabric that I have. It is a stretchy Ponte fabric, but I think it's going to give a great hand to the hand feel to the journal. So that's what I'm hoping for. And then I had this lace that I had gotten, I think from Amore Fabrics a while ago, and it just matches this perfectly. So actually it might have come from somewhere else, but anyway, I had this piece of lace. It looks beautiful. I've already trimmed my journal cover up to the size that I'm going to make my journal. Let me pull over my journal cards and pieces. Here we go. So this is how I'm going to construct my journal. I have some thick cardstock. This is actually from the backing on a pack of designer series paper I got from Stampin' Up. I always save those cardboards and they make great book covers, but they're a little bit thick for sewing in your spine. So for that, I just use a really thick piece of cardstock. This is also from a pack of paper that I got. It's just a thinner version. So I'm going to use that for my spine, which is a 1-inch spine, and I've already cut down my covers. You can make your journal any size, so I'm not really going to go over measurements specifically, but I made mine so that my 8.5 by 11 pages will be able to fold and go inside. So it's, I think 6 by 9 is the dimensions. And then this is what I've chosen, this Florentine paper. I did cut into my precious Florentine paper. This is going to be the inside of the covers. And then I did also make a piece. This is optional. You don't need to do this because essentially your signature is going to hide this part of the spine, so you really don't need to cover it at all. But I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of Florentine paper there just because I did have the offcut. So so again, I cut these just smaller than the 6 by 9, as you can see. They're just barely smaller because my fabric is going to come over on the inside. So so the fabric is going to cover the rest of this edge. But then these are going to go on top of that. So this will make a nice, neat inside cover. I will probably put pockets on these. I will likely do some sewing with this journal as well. Which is another reason, sometimes I'll just use this white card as your cover because this is a little bit thick, but I have a sort of a throwaway sewing machine. It's not my good sewing machine that I use for sewing through paper and crafts, so I feel okay with using that for sewing through this. I don't think it'll be a problem at all. But you don't have to sew. That's totally an optional thing. And I'm going to use this fabric tape to put my pieces together. Again, another thing you don't have to do, but I just want to have a little bit of strength between my pieces. So this is just paper tape It's used actually for like medical reasons, but it works great for just giving you that stability, because I do want this journal to last forever. So I'm going to be I'm going to be taping my spine pieces together with the gap in between, and then these papers will go on later. So I'm going to move them out of the way. And we're going to actually go ahead and assemble it. This is a little different than I've done in the past, but I think it'll work, and I'm going to try it. And I would encourage you to try things. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of videos out there from really awesome journal makers that show different steps, depending on whether you want, you know, you're putting antiques in it, you want it to last forever, or whether you're just throwing together a quick journal that you want to use for a daily journal for yourself, if you're gifting it, if you're selling it. So there's so many ways that you can put journal covers together. I would really encourage you to check out a lot of videos and come up with the way that works for you. I will say that I do different ways. I don't know that I have a super favorite way to do a journal cover. I've done ring journals. I've used books as the cover and just, you know, emptied out a book and used that. I've used book covers and then created another spine. So there's lots and lots of ways. I've used file folders. That's a really easy, straightforward way to make a book cover. So there's lots and lots of ways, and there's lots of videos. So I'm not really going to teach you how to do that because there are videos out there that are going to teach you that. I just want to show you the materials, and then I'm going to go through and assemble it, and then it's going to need to sit to dry. So we'll see what it looks like when it's done at the end of this video, and then at the beginning of next video when we talk about actually putting the signature in, you'll be able to see it after it's dried and all of that. So as far as glue, I am going to be using Fabri-Tac. I put my glue in these little bottles. I think I got these from Amazon, but this is what I'm using, just regular Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. I just like it in a little bit of a smaller bottle. It's easier for me to manage. You don't have to do that. I also use this glue, this PVA pH neutral glue. This is what I will use when I'm gluing paper to the cardstock, but when I'm using fabric, I want to use the Fabri-Tac. So, and this glue I also have in a bottle. I just put them in my own little bottles. It's a lot easier for me to handle this bottle and squeeze it and be a little more in control. The other thing, the other thing that I'll be using is I have this little silicone brush. I don't even know where I got this. I've had it for years. You can use anything, but this will help you to spread your glue. You do not want to have globs or strings of glue when you're putting on a fabric cover or even a paper cover. You will see those bubbles where there was not glue. So when you apply the glue, you'll want to make sure you spread it out in a nice thin layer on each of the surfaces. So again, those tips and techniques are all in other videos, so I'm really not going to go through that whole process with you, but I'm going to pause the video, get started. I'll show you little bits and pieces as we go through, and then that way this video won't be so long, and then I'll show you at the end what it ends up turning out like. So here we go. Okay, so I have my cover together. And what I've done is I've used that paper tape, and this paper tape is really thin. You can sew through it to sew your signature in, but if you can see, there is a gap between the paper tapes around the center. There's more of a gap on this side. I did a better job on that side. So when I sew the signature in, I won't be going through this tape. That just helps your needle not get gummy. If you don't have tape in there, it might go through this tape, but then I'll have to clean my needle up. But anyway, so it's nice and together. That's going to be my spine for my cover. The white pieces, this is going to be my cover. So now I'm just going to trim this off, and I have junky scissors. I have junky scissors for cutting through tape. I have my variety of scissors here sitting next to me. I have my fabric scissors and my good paper scissors, and then I have these junky scissors. So I'm just going to trim this down so that there's no overhang. Get rid of those little pieces, and there's my cover. So then the first thing I'm gonna do is attach the fabric. So I'm gonna lay the fabric out. And I'm gonna take this lace off for right now. So we're just gonna do the fabric, and it might not all, oh, it is all in view. Okay, so you can see that I've cut plenty big. So this is way longer than I needed it to be. I think what I did was I just did the height part of it. So what I'm gonna want is about 3/4 of an inch to an inch to be able to pull over or fold over onto this side. And I'm gonna do this a little bit differently. You may not wanna do this, but I'm going to put the fabric on, put the paper on over top, so it'll be like this. And then I'm gonna put the lace so that the lace actually comes over this. I think that's gonna look nice. I don't know, we'll see. But let me grab my fabric scissors, and I'm gonna cut this down on this side. Okay, and saving all those little bits and pieces. I'm also gonna go ahead and cut across the corner. I do a terrible job of cutting too close, so that's way too far, but I'd rather it be a little lumpy. This journal is for myself. It's not for me to give away or sell. So I would rather have that extra and have the corner covered, because I tend to get too close to that corner, and then when I try to miter that corner, it ends up popping out. So I don't like that. So I just left myself a little extra there. So this cover now is ready to be attached on. So the way that I like to do it is spread my glue here, flip it over, give it a good press, get that all pressed down, flip it this way, get some glue here, press that down, and then get some glue on the last side, press that down. And you can see there are wrinkles in my fabric, so I will turn it over once the glue is on, and I will smooth it down without stretching it. I don't want to stretch this fabric because it is a stretchy fabric. So that's just something to keep in mind. You don't want to stretch it out. So I'm going to go ahead and get started doing that. I'll go ahead and show you with this first one, and then I'll go ahead and stop the video, and I'll go ahead and finish it up off camera. But we're going to just go ahead and give a generous amount of Fabri-Tac. Actually, I'm probably going to get my big bottle out. But I really like these squeeze bottles for this reason. They squeeze really easy and they don't clog up. And then I'm gonna go ahead and spread that. And I wanna spread it to the edge. I wanna spread it all over. You don't wanna have it too much, because if it's too wet, it will take forever to dry. But you do wanna try to make sure you get glue everywhere. So I'm gonna have to add more down here. And if you've never used Fabri-Tac, it does stink, just so you know. It does have that smell, so you should be in a ventilated area, not in a closed-in room with doors closed or anything like that, because it is kind of yucky. But let's go ahead and add some more here. Make sure we got, and I will say, since this is for me and not for anyone else, I'm not going to be too particular here, and I am going to have that lace over top, so if there would be a bubble, you can usually hide it, but I do want it to stick well. So all right, so that looks pretty good. Stick my silicone brush where it won't stick to anything, and I'm just going to flip this over since I've already got it measured out. I'm going to give it a nice rub. And I'm gonna flip it over, make sure there's no wrinkles. That looks great. So I'm not gonna mess with it a whole lot. Flip it back over. So that's all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and finish that 2 more times. I'm gonna just do the spine next, get that glued down good, and then I'll do this cover, and then I'll be back. All right, we're back, and I have all the cover glued down. And I've smoothed it out, and it turned out really nice. I'm really happy with how it looks. I did want to mention that you can have some seepage depending on your fabric. So just keep in mind that you could have seepage of the glue if you have a thinner fabric. This is a pretty thick fabric and it's kind of a spongy fabric. So I didn't have any that seeped through, but you could have that. What you would want to do in that case is make sure that you lay down like parchment paper or something like that under your cover while it's drying, just so that it doesn't stick to your surface. Okay, so I'm really happy with this. I do think at this point I've decided that because this had those old wrinkles in it, even though it's going to be covered by lace, this is going to be my front. So I'm going to flip it this way. And we're going to leave it that way. And actually, I do feel like I need to trim some of this fabric off over here, just a little bit. It's a little bit more than what I'd like to have. Just trim a little bit down. Doesn't have to be perfect. It is going to be covered by that paper, but I don't want it to be too bulky because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fold this up, and I like to start in the middle. I know some people do it differently. I like to start top and bottom first and then sides, and I just fold from the middle. I'll put some glue here, fold from the middle, hold, 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 and then when I get to the sides is when I really worry about getting that corner folded in, but I'll do some little finagling with that corner to make sure that it comes in together somewhat nicely. It will be a little funky on the outside, but I'm okay with that. Again, this is for me. This is not something I'm selling. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. Again, I'm using Fabri-Tac for this because it is fabric to the cardboard. So I'm going to just put a little bit of glue. I am going to maybe just sort of smudge it. I don't need to actually spread it here because there's such a small amount. I can just really kind of press it with my fingers. So I'm going to do that next, and then I'll do the top, and then I'll do the sides, and then I'll be right back. Okay. So we're back. So I wanted to share with you too, if you are trying to rush this process, you may need to clip with some bulldog clips or something like that. I have these clips that I use in sewing, so these work fine. My corners are going to be terrible, but I'm not really worried about that. They are going to be covered up by the lace somewhat, so I just am not going to stress over it. But this is all glued down. I'm not worried either about what's the inside here because that's going to get covered by my paper. So when I put my paper in here, all you're going to see is that 1/4 inch edge basically around there, maybe a little more than 1/4 inch, but that's all you're going to see once I get this paper in here. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a little while to set the glue, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue this page in here and this page in here, and then I am going to glue this down. I am not going to use Fabri-Tac on these. I might use a little bit of Fabri-Tac around the edges, but I'm going to mainly use the PVA glue for this because it's paper to paper. I find that I get less residue on my needle when I'm sewing in my signature, when I'm sewing with the sewing machine with this PVA glue. If I let it dry, I don't have any trouble with my needles. I do sometimes have trouble if I'm sewing through the Fabri-Tac. So like when I sew this journal, it's already got a layer of Fabri-Tac in there. It's possible I'll have a problem with my needle getting gummy, and you can clean that off with alcohol. It's not a big deal. But it is something that I notice, whereas if I just use PVA glue, if my cover is out of wallpaper or cardstock or scrapbook paper or something like that, and I just use PVA glue, I don't have any of that residue ever. So just something to know. That's been my experience. I don't know if everyone experiences that, but here's my next steps. My next steps are going to be to glue these papers on the inside. This is going to be my inside cover. And I have to decide if I'm putting any sewn in pocket before I do the sewing on here. I haven't decided that yet, but I do want to let this dry with the paper on it and the fabric on it before I do my lace. So I'm going to give that a little bit of time to dry as well. I think it is going to still be in this video. So for you guys, it might just be a couple of minutes, but for me, I'm going to give this a little bit of time to set up. I'm going to glue these papers down and then just walk away for a little while and let it set up. So I will be back with you in just a moment. Okay, so I thought I would just show you the methodology for the last one of these pages. So I'm just going around it with the PVA glue. I do not spread this glue out. You could. I hear some people say that they do, that they get bubbling. I've never experienced that, and this is going to be, the cover is going to get decorated. I never leave anything blank. So for me, I just don't see the need to do that, but you do you, and if you feel necessary to spread that glue out, by all means go ahead and spread that glue out. This glue does dry clear, so you also don't need to worry about that if you get a little bit outside of the lines, so to speak. And then I just give it a nice good press, and I'm going to turn it over and give it a nice good press. All right, and I think that looks really good. Now I'm not going to mess with this cover very much right now. Like I said, I'm going to let it sit for a little while. I don't really feel like I need to put anything over it, but what I might just do is set it underneath this mat while I'm looking at other things and working on other things, to just let it sort of not a whole lot of weight, but just let it sit flat, let that glue dry, and then I will come back to work on the lace cover part of it in just a little while. And again, this is the lace I'm going to use. I've already decided this is going to be my front. I want that up in the front corner, so I'll have to cut this down just a little bit. And I do want it to wrap just like the cover. So this will get applied to the cover just like the fabric got applied to the cardboard, only it's going to be fabric to fabric. And because the lace is porous, what I'll end up doing is I won't cover the cover with glue. I will just be applying glue in certain areas of the lace, you know, paint some on here, paint some here, paint some in some of the denser areas, and then applying it down. And then I'll be using my sewing machine to sew around it to make sure that it stays where I want it to stay, with it wrapped around the edges. So the raw edge of the lace will be on the inside of the journal, which I think will look kind of interesting. So we'll find out if my vision comes true in just a few minutes when we get this lace applied. All right, I'm ready to start putting the lace on to my cover. So I'm gonna take, this is an experiment, but I'm gonna basically take the glue, put it on the silicone brush, and this is all dried on here now, but and then I'm just gonna dab it on. I just want to get this cover to stay enough so that I can then take it to the sewing machine and sew it around the edges. So just gonna get some on this silicone brush, and I'm just gonna brush it on, and I'm just gonna start with this side over here and do it in small areas. So just basically dabbing it around, and then I want to try to dab it some down here. Oh, got a little globby. I'm using the Fabri-Tac again, and I did let it get kind of goopy on the top of my lid, which I don't usually do. But I'm gonna go ahead and just tap it on a little bit around there. And then we're gonna go ahead, and here's my beautiful cover. I am gonna set that down about like that. Oh, I can go over just a little, about like that. I'm gonna give that a press. Let that, I did get some outside, but I'm not gonna worry about that right now. And then I wanna get a little bit where the spine would be, and then a little bit over here. So just gonna see what I can do. And I do have some parchment paper on standby over here, so that I will put this down on the parchment paper to dry. I just want to get it all stuck first. Okay, let's do just a little more here. And again, I'm really not as worried about the front of the cover as I am about the back, because the front I'm gonna decorate. I'm probably gonna have something attached to the front. So again, that's gonna help, in addition to the stitching, that's gonna help hold it down. All right, now I'm gonna pick this up and flip it over. I've got some glue definitely coming through. So I'm gonna take my parchment and we'll just hold that over. Let's turn this. Sorry about the camera work there. Going right up by you guys. There we go. We'll put that down like that. All right, and then I still think I want to pull this over. I'm not sure if I'm gonna glue it or if I'm just gonna pin it and clip it and stitch it. I kind of think I just want to stitch it. And I like that it's coming in like that. I don't know, I think that's gonna be nice. So I think this is all I'm gonna glue right now. I may change my mind and decide to glue this down, but I think I just would rather stitch it down. And I have decided I'm not gonna put any permanent pockets in here, stitched pockets. What I might use are the little, let me find them here. Here we go. These little stick-on pockets, they're clear. I may put a clear pocket on the front and on the back. So that's something I'm gonna leave for now. I'm not gonna stitch anything down. So basically when I stitch, I really just wanna stitch around. And I don't know if I'll stitch down the spine, but I definitely will just stitch around both the front and the back cover. So I think that's it for today, for today's video. I'm gonna leave it here. I think this is gonna be absolutely beautiful when it's done. I just think that's gonna look so pretty. I love this big flower up here. So I'm thinking that I might have some sort of a embellishment on the front, some sort of a real Christmassy embellishment on the front. And so that's what I'm thinking there. But I do think that just stitching this down is gonna hold the lace, and I'm not gonna have to worry about any additional glue. So I'm gonna leave this lay here to dry, and actually I will just leave it face up so I don't have to have this parchment down. I can just leave it face up here. I don't have any glue on this, nope. And we'll leave it face up like that. And I am just gonna let this dry overnight. And then tomorrow I will be coming back to do the stitching. I'm not gonna do the stitching on camera because I don't have a way to film that. My sewing machine is not in a spot that I can do that. It's behind my desk. So I will do the stitching around it before I come back for the next video. And in the next video, it's going to be all about the signature, putting together the signature and getting ready to stitch that in. So I hope you'll join me back. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I hope to see you back for part 3 coming really soon. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.